Hello and welcome to Paintfest 2019. Welcome one and all. It's my honour again for the 5th year running to look at this fabulous work, and I know I do say this every year, but honestly I mean it. When I walk through those sliding doors and I look at some of the quality of this work, I think it gets better and better every year. So really well done everyone, and every single person contributes to this. It wouldn't be an exhibition unless every single person put the work in. So that's the achievement, and that's the big pat on the back today really. And it's my honour to go around and just talk about parts that stand out to me and I think are quite impressive. But I am nowhere near the god of art or the voice of art. Other people can see different things in art, and that's the beauty of the subject, and it's one of the reasons why I love it. So I'll try and take you on my journey, but to be honest, it's up to you to decide and to love it as well. But really well done all of you. It's been a pleasure to look at it. One of the things which stood out to me with this group is a great use of gradual colour in the things that they're working on, whether it be skies or tablecloths or delicate petals or wildlife, like with the cockerel on the end there, fabulous sort of dusky looking skies. Really controlled colour well and blended it well in this group, I thought. Great homage to nature. Nature was obviously something that really inspired this group of artists, and I think it comes through in the work, and it's a really nice celebration of nature in lots of different styles. So really well done with that everyone, because I think it's working really well. Wildlife, plants handled with great sensitivity as well. It's easy to go too heavy with either pencil work or your watercolour work or acrylic work, whatever you're working in, when you're handling wildlife, and lose that sort of delicate feel of it. But this group really confident with that, and really nice mark making as well to sort of show nature to its best degree really, so well done. And finally, there's just a real sense of life about the work. I put that down, I was smiling looking at it, right down to the drawing of the lady from Gone with the Wind through to all the nature studies. If we just go around the corner and see some of this work as well, real nice sort of sense of life and a celebration of life really, handled in just about every colour of the spectrum. So a real achievement done by everyone in this group. And I honestly, I meant what I said, I do think the standard has gone up again, so pats on the back all of you, well done, you've done yourself proud. The first piece of work I wanted to talk about a little bit more closely was number 1, which is this lovely watercolour example here. I think it's got a really nice delicate feel to it. All the objects are handled really lovingly. There's no real deep black. And there are little bits of highlights, but it's all about that middle kind of colour range and the really delicate touch of the brush onto the canvas or the board it's been put onto, and I think it works really well. I especially like the way the water's handled inside that vase there, and also the way the colours have been blended in a sort of a very loose way, and yet where it needs to be sharp, like at the edges of the pears or little hints on the edge of a petal, it's confident enough to do that kind of sharpness as well. So really well handled. Love the colour blending and the warmth of the colours coming through. It's a picture that you really like to look at again and again, so really well done with that one. I was very impressed. This next one, it stood out quite a lot as being very different from the other images that were handled in by this art group. And I thought it was really confidently done. A really nice pencil portrait, which is very easy to spot mistakes, and I'm really struggling to find mistakes on this. They've got that lovely full face of the character from the Gone with the Wind movie, and I think it really captures like that moment. It doesn't look too overdrawn, and the person has put the right amount of shade in to get that kind of jolly, kind of full face effect, which I think works really well there. And they've also underdrawn where they need to as well. So really good control of just a simple pencil really, on paper, and it works really well just to capture that character in a really lively way. The other thing I thought was really impressive, and something I always struggle with drawing, is getting teeth right. If you do the lines between the teeth too strongly, the teeth can look really gappy, and it's the one thing that you can't stop looking at in a picture. This one's been handled really nicely there. It's got all the teeth showing in that delicate sort of way, and it works really well, and it just adds to that really happy grin. And like, from what I can remember from the character from the movie, she was like a brilliant comic timing sort of character, and I think that's brought across really well in just that moment, capturing her cheeky sort of grin there. Quite a contrast with this piece from the last one. Really lovely, delicate sort of brush strokes and marks, really lovely use of colours, and I particularly like the way they let the white of the paper do a lot of the work, where the artist has dropped the colours on without making it too thick to stop that lovely lightness coming through and giving it that delicate kind of springtime or summertime sort of nature feel. The whole image is sort of moving almost in a breeze, which is really hard to capture in a drawing or painting. I think that's handled really well, and I like the way that where each brush stroke has been put on, you've got colour blending, so you've got heavier sort of reds going fainter as the water sort of dilutes them on those petals, and it works really well. It's a lovely sort of splashy, happy picture that you could look at for a long time. Well done. From a very light and airy sort of picture, this is almost the other end of the scale really. You've got a very sort of heavy, dark framing effect, and the point of light is this lovely warm fire right in the middle. The whole thing's got a Welsh feel about it for some reason. I don't know whether it's based in Wales, but it's got that Welsh feel about it, with the fireplace and the look of sort of slates and slabs handled really well. Really delicate touch with the light on the boy's face there, reflecting off the fire, and it's almost like he's lost staring into the flames. There's a little bit of a narrative there, maybe he's thinking about something else, or something's on his mind, but it's a really nice piece in the way it's handled in that sense. It draws you in, that piece of light in the middle, and the way it's composed around there works really well. The other thing I like is the contrast in it, where you've got the rocky kind of broken up stones that look sort of really old, like they've been around since Stonehenge time, and then you've got this contrast, this young person with a bag of looks like Maltesers in the middle, as the little point, that red point, takes your eye in there, and then you see the fire as well. So really clever handling of light, really contrasting subject matter you wouldn't think would go together, but for some reason, perhaps it's the composition, it all goes together and knits really well. Right, number 13, it's not unlucky for some because I really like this one. It's a lovely sort of rocky sort of beach scene, where they've just taken simple elements really. You've got the heaviness of these cliffs or stacks on either side, which frame this sort of fainter landscape in the background, and then in between you've got these waves and the froth of the waves crashing and making their way down. It's got that feeling like it's coming towards you. I really like the composition in the way they haven't done specific sort of perspective lines. Your kind of eye wanders into it and meanders around into the picture, and then it's framed by these really heavy rocks. And I think the artist, by putting these sort of colours of green and also the sort of streaks of light greys, have got the heaviness of that rock, that it doesn't look like it was there yesterday. It's kind of been there since the dawn of time, and they've really convinced me as to that sort of solidity, I suppose, in that whole image. So it works really well. It's got that delicate look of the foam against the heaviness of the rocks, and there's almost a full colour spectrum being used, going from the greens up to the greys and the bluey tones there. So it's cleverly handled and simplistic, and a really nice composition, so well done. The last one, but not the least by any means in this group, is number 11, which is the flamingo painting. As a contrast from the really heavy rocks in the last one we looked at, I think this one's got a lovely delicate feel of movement and grace in this little group of flamingos. There's nice little hints of reflection on the ground that they're walking on, whether it's on the edge of a lake or a beach or something along those lines, and it's not over strong in the way the colours are placed down. It's got a nice delicate feel to it, which I think really complements the subject matter. The thing that really impresses me most, I mean, the heads are painted lovely and the way the feathers are handled and the sense of movement's really good. I just really think the way those legs have been painted, I mean, to get one right is hard enough, but to do them all, to get that really delicate kind of feel, because they almost defy gravity when you look at flamingos, I always think, and I think the artist has really captured that, and they've been brave enough to actually break up the leg so you don't see a complete solid streak of, even though you know it's there, it's that sort of braveness to do that, and I think they've really captured the group really well there, and it looks like it's moving, it looks like it's delicate, and I think that's a really nice wildlife piece that I could look at for a long time, so well done. Next group, Gartholwg Art Society. Again, the standard, I think, has gone up a notch this year. The thing that caught my eye when I was looking around, well, the three things really, were nature from a very wide scale to on a landscape sort of level, right up to macro, super close-up studies of creatures that have obviously inspired the artists who've looked at them and worked on them for their pieces. Landscape and the seasons, really nice handling of seasons and weather, and that can be really inspiring, but not necessarily easy to put on the canvas or board or paper, and I think this group have done that exceedingly well, so really well done with that. And they're also not afraid to use a full palette of colours when handling those topics as well. So a growing confidence, I think, that really stands out in this group, just like the other two. If we just go along the edge a second, you can sort of see a real celebration of colour again, and also a real control of the important parts of the pictures, like the fantastic winter trees or the dense autumnal forest there, going around to sort of cityscapes using perspective and looking at buildings in different ways, or looking at costume and figures, and taking our eye on a journey really, and making things interesting for us, helping us to see the world in a different way. And I love the way this group does that, as well as a growing confidence with materials such as sort of layering of paint colours, and also moving the paint around on the canvas in a slightly different way as well, with these sort of ink or watercolour lines being blown across there. So really well done, this group as well. Again, I picked out 6 examples that caught my eye, but it was, in all of these, it was a really difficult choice, just narrowing it down to 6 in all cases, so obviously well done across the board. But the first one that I wanted to mention was this lovely study of a bee. I love the way that they've taken a macro subject and really zoomed in on it and shown us, taking it this macro world really, of looking at something in high definition and detail, and it's been really lovingly handled. That's the first thing I really like about it, is that accuracy right down to the tiny little hairs on the bee's legs, and the shine in the eyes and the furriness of the body compared to that delicate, almost stained glass window-like effect on the wings. That's been done really nicely, but I also like the composition and the way it kind of, they've got the splashiness with some of the bee colours that are connecting to it actually escaping onto the mount, and I haven't seen that before, and I think that's a really clever idea. And there was another painting in there that did the same thing. Well, actually I might be coming on to it, but it works really well, that sort of the image and the colours of the image escaping out of the frame is a really nice confidence. The other thing that really works on this, which is the use of what they call the negative space, where they've got the shadow underneath that bee, which suddenly gives it a presence and it looks like it's there, and it's a really nicely handled shadow. It's got a defined edge to it, but then it blends away and disappears. So again, it's confidently handled, but it gives that bee a bit more of a solid feel, that it's actually there, and it's even though it's very small, it's got that solid sort of presence to it. So really well handled for all the detail in there. A lovely piece. Okay, this next piece has some similarities to the last piece. it's a bigger subject matter, but the artist has decided obviously to zoom in on a certain part of this, and it's like the turtle's head, which is really nicely handled, almost like again like that stained glass window effect, with each kind of scale having its own sort of separate colour treatment, and also blending within the scales. There's a lot of detail in there and a lot of effort that's gone into it, but for some reason it's still got a nice sort of free feel, like it's floating in the ocean. Again, the escaping sort of colours out of the mount works really well, and it suits this nature feel really well. It adds to the fact that it's something that's moving, something that's alive. It's not sort of dead on a slab in any way. This is a real live creature in its natural habitat, and it looks really happy to be there. I like the use of blues and greens, and I like the way that sometimes it blends and then sometimes it changes really harshly, which really reflects each scale having its own sort of meaning and its own sort of significance to the picture overall. And the shine in the eye, the double shine, adds to the life of the creature as well. So really well handled, lovely blending in just limited colours, but a successful piece definitely in my view. Okay, another nature piece. This group did really well with the nature sort of topic altogether, and we've got this magnificent looking sea lion who's basking in the sun, or to me it looks like he's taken the applause for something he might have done, or if it's in a wildlife park, or he's just basking in the sun, hopefully free on the coastline of Wales somewhere, maybe off Caldy Island. But it's a lovely piece in the way it's handled, the way the watercolour, I think it's watercolour or ink possibly, is blended as it goes through the body to show how the muscles are under there, but it's also nice and smooth, so it can obviously go through the waves. It's a really good description of the creature there. I like the way that they haven't got the eyes showing, because sometimes when you've got eyes in a picture it draws you in, and you're concerned with that area first and you don't see the rest of the picture. I think this artist has really taken us, or invited us really, to look over the whole of the sea lion. The other thing, just like with the bumblebee piece earlier, the shadow works really well. For some reason, I know it's a really nice day when that photo was taken. There's something about it. It's probably the pose of the sea lion and the way the shadows are handled, that it's got that real nice brightness, that it's a place you'd like to be. And I also like the confidence of the way the water's handled behind, with the white streaks just catching the tops of the water. It all adds to that sunny, sort of happy feel. It's a real nice piece that makes you feel good about wildlife, and it's been handled in a really lovely way, so well done. Number 8, how can a fried egg look interesting? Well, this person has pulled it off times 10. Really nice, accurate study that makes you think again about the most ordinary things and how they can be interesting. If you look at the way, it's a marvellous study of how to use white and grey and just delicate tones to get the look of that, the white part of the egg with the little bubbles touching on it, and then it goes to the slightly overcooked, crispier bits near the edge of the egg. It's fantastic. I'm sure this person could paint a ping pong ball and it would look absolutely awesome and interesting, because that is a lovely study, I think, with light and tone just handled. There's no black in there again, it's just all gentle greys and gentle tones of the oranges and yellows for the central part of the egg, but really nicely done, and a picture you could go and look at again and again and really appreciate that fine detail in there. Brilliant to see something so everyday being turned into art and really achieving well as well. Excellent. From sunny side up to the sun itself, a fantastic piece here. It's just got that lovely sense of every colour in the spectrum being used, and yet it doesn't look garish. It's really delicate in its touch, and the layering from wave to wave to wave as it takes you out to that central point is really clever. And I love the use of the figure. I think the figure takes you on a little bit more of a journey through the picture. You don't go straight to the sunset or the sunrise. You actually go to the figure first, you're interested in what she could be looking at, and then you go off to that sun. So really nice with the composition to have that little surprise element in there. But the handling of the water and the blending of colours, I mean, it goes from purples and deep reds into the pale blues and whites, and then there's speckles for the little bits of froth on the edges. And when the artist does go darker with the colours, it's very delicate and it's just in the right places to get the curl of the wave or to get the overlapping effect. It's really skillfully done, and I think this person is definitely a master of the sunset effect and this kind of blending effect as well. But it's a really lovely piece, and it works close up from where I am, and it would work from the other side of the room as well. So well done, a really lovely painting. Okay, the last one in this central group that we're looking at is number 15, and it's this fabulous painting of a horse, or horse's head. And I think it's really stood out to me because of the handling and the confidence. It's sharp where it needs to be sharp, and then the artist hasn't been afraid to go boom with the colours and really express the actual movement and the energy of a horse. You know, we have to remember all of these images we look at are just illusions, they're just colours on a piece of paper, but for some reason the energy of a horse is brought across in these splashes and lines which look like they've possibly been allowed to run or blown with a straw across the canvas, and it works really well, I think. I like the way the eyes are underpainted. They're not the focus of the piece. The whole movement is the focus of the piece, and I love the way that the yellows go to the greens and the blues and then back to the yellows to define the shape of the horse's head without using strong heavy lines that would have sort of spoilt that overall energy of the picture and would have made everything look still and dead, really. So that's really nicely handled. It's got that explosion of a stallion possibly, and it works really well. So a lovely piece yet again. Well done. I think what struck me about this group was the wide variety of approaches that they do, and they're really pushing the boundaries of art and what you can do with art by their different approaches. I mean, it shows really well in this fantastic Borealis piece down there, where the acrylic's been scratched and moved around either with brushes or the wrong end of a brush almost, to get this amazing image that kind of draws you in. So really nicely done, and then it will go from that sort of extreme to a very tight, flat, lovely handling of an illustration, as with the crazy cat there. They're also not scared to go for scale, like with the big sort of portraits of the children. Not scared of pattern. This comes into this lovely butterfly image there, which shows that butterfly can be looked at in lots of different ways and a real source of inspiration for pattern as well. I love some of the ideas of combinations of things being put together as well. A lovely combination of butterflies and the giraffe in that piece on the top. You've got a really nice piece there where you've got the Spanish steps and that sky, which when I first looked at it I thought, oh, that's really blue, is that too blue? But actually when you stand back and you look at the oranges on the other side of the colour wheel contrasting with it, I think that's a lovely execution of that sky from that part of the world. And again, it's a lovely composition, so really nicely done there. This fabulous gate, which has got a misty kind of feel to it. There's a sense of mystery as to where does that gate lead. Handled in a different way again, a different sort of mark. So quite an inventive art group, this one, with lots of different styles and approaches. I'll just go round to the end, and again the confidence is reflected here again with this reclining figure, with this high angle shot of the sand dunes and these two children and the dog running through with a bucket of spade. Clever use of the red on the bucket there to draw your eye into that. Again, another high angle one of the acrylic beach. Also the Starry Night, the famous Van Gogh painting. Not an easy thing to take on it, to pull off, but really nicely done again there, with the sort of complementary blues and oranges again being used really cleverly. And then this tree kind of silhouetted against the sky there without the traditional horizon line. Again, works really well. It's inventive and a good reflection of the ambitions of this group as well. This group should be applauded for the wide variety of different styles that they try in their approaches, as well as the actual quality of the work as well. So this first piece is kind of an example of what I'm on about. It's an unusual looking composition that's got a very simple layering effect, and the front of the picture has very little in it indeed really. It's as you go deeper into the picture it becomes richer and the colours become stronger and deeper, and it's a lovely kind of sense of depth. It reminded me of the old kind of Victorian children's theatres where the paper characters would come in and out and they've got that layering effect, but they've kind of taken it a stage further. And then when it does need to have a bit of solidity or a bit of interest, this colour blending up at the top of the trees and then the deeper colours further on works really well, and it's got that sense of lightness, but there's a kind of infinity about it as well in the depth and the handling. So a confident and unusual piece, but I think it works really well, and I could look at that for a long time, so really well done. This next piece really caught my eye because it kind of challenged my opinion of how a tiger should look. It's got the solid traditional kind of tiger profile, and then it goes down and blends into this really delicate, almost ribbon-like piece of smoke which vanishes into nothing. And then to complement that, you've got something as light and as delicate as a butterfly just about to settle on this tiger's nose. And for some reason that tiger doesn't look aggressive. I think those two get on quite well. It's got that lovely relationship there of something delicate next to something powerful. Really lovely contrast, amazing line. I really love the sort of the line has been put where it's needed, and they haven't done anything that they don't need. It's a really economical piece that works really well, and I'd love to find out whether they put the line on first or whether they put the colours on first, but it's a powerful piece, and it kind of, to me, it's got a Japanese feel. That type of art is very economical again, and they're not scared of space, and they're not scared of quite outlandish compositions really that break a lot of the rules. And I think this one has got that, where solid form turns into pattern almost, and then goes back into solid form, and then this line again. Just an interesting piece that caught my eye, and it's really worth a close look at as well as from a distance, but really well done. Another amazing piece of delicate art that I think should be applauded is this one, which is a close-up of a flower head with the crispy kind of, and these are the parts I think are even more well handled really, these crispy sort of elements near the edge where the petals are dying or falling off in some way. But I think it's got a lovely delicate feel overall. It's confident where it needs to be, and yet it's so delicate where it needs to be as well. And I just think the full use of colours in these sort of close-up sections works really well. The artist has controlled the blending from that acid green almost in the middle going out into the purples and the pinks that aren't overly heavy as well as you come out, but really a lovely strong piece. And actually the strongest tones in there are on the stalk, which only help to push that delicate flower out even more. But so skillfully handled, such a delicate hand to do all this detail. And it's not the smoothest of surfaces to work on either when you look at that watercolour paper under there. So a really fab piece, well done. This next piece now, again, in a similar vein to the last one, this artist can really handle petals and nature almost at a microscopic level. Fantastic handling of this rose, and I like the way it's not your traditional view of a rose. As the title says, last rose of summer, you've got that kind of idea of time passing and it's the end of the good times in the summer, and this rose is sort of reflecting that, but it's also handled so well. There's all those different tones of reds and purples running through there, and then against that you've got the delicacy of each tiny petal and the colour stopping with such precision as it switches from the petal to the background. It's amazingly well done, and even the dullest parts, the stalks themselves, which haven't got that colour and vibrancy, are so well handled. It's a fantastic piece, and I can't I can't see any pencil lines or clue lines either. That is, it just looks like paint on top of the watercolour paper, and it's a really fabulous, strong piece that I could look at for a long time. Well done, that artist. Right, from the fabulous colours in the last two to someone who really knows how to handle tone and work with greys and blacks and whites really well. This person practically draws in paint, and I think it's fabulous skin tones overall, the shine in the eyes, and yet for the amount of paint that's on there, these two haven't lost their character. The relationship is there, and it's clear to see the expression on the face. They do look like two people that are probably quite hard to pin down, and they're going to run away in about 2 seconds. And I think the artist has captured that, as well as the fun of that image as well. But really, I always think young faces are hard to paint, because the minute you start to overdo lines such as smile lines, then you start to age the face. And this artist hasn't aged their face. They've got a young, kind of fresh, mischievous kind of look about them. I think he's pulled off really well. And I also think that the way the hair is handled and it's blended in kind of reflects that they're connected in some way. And I just think, even if it's friendship or whether it's family, they've got a kind of a link and a love and a bond there that's really strong. So nicely handled. Again, the teeth really nicely done. If you do those gaps too big, then those teeth will be the first thing you see in the picture. But overall, a lovely piece. Nice to see it bold and big as well. Confidence is shown here, because when you're going that big, if you go wrong, it's going to stand out a lot more as well. But a fabulous piece that shows this great relationship in greys. See, grey can be fun. This is the last but not least of my close-up talks, and it's this piece which shows what looks like a Welsh village, I think, but it's got a really distinctive style and a confidence about it. It reminds me a bit of, there's a Dorian Spencer Davies in his work you see a lot around Tenby and West Wales, but it's not a complete copy. I think this is, you could argue they've been inspired by that sort of approach, but it's very individual as well. Really nice confidence with the composition. The road takes you into the picture, and the road is almost the greyest bit of the picture. The rest of it is these bright sort of panels of colour that make this village sort of come alive, really. And it's all sort of stands out on this plain back silhouetted sort of mountain that works really well. And I think because the lines aren't straight on the buildings, each building's got its own character, and it's also got a life of its own in some way. It's just got a nice sort of feel about it. It reminds me a little bit of Under Milkwood or that sort of feeling. Whether that's right or not, I don't know, but it's a really nice warm place to be, even though this artist hasn't been afraid to try something that's a bit more abstract. So well done for that, and well done for going for the scale of it, and a really nice, inventive, adventurous piece. Overall, this group and all the other groups, fantastically well done, and it's been a pleasure to look at it again. Thank you very much.